gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's October the 12th, 2023. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, rejoined this morning by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented today by Caneswear, your headquarters for all your Miami Hurricanes needs, rain or shine, victory or defeat. You get all your Hurricanes gear at Caneswear, the largest Miami Hurricane store ever created. We'll talk a little bit more about them later in the show. But Matt, the Canes are getting ready. We're getting closer and closer and closer, 48 hours away now. Well, maybe a few hours more than that since it's a night game. But from entering North Carolina and in Chapel Hill and having a very significant game in the season. And obviously it was significant all along. Would have been probably equally significant if they had beaten Georgia Tech last week. But the first question that I have for you this morning is, does losing technically, because there's a lot of different interpretations going on right now about what happened there in the game, and some of them involving not just Mario Cristobal, but the officials, had Miami won the game and sitting at 5-0, is the North Carolina game more significant trying to go to 6-0, or is it more significant now trying to rebound from 4-1?
I see you stop talking. I have you on mute from now on. I don't want to listen to you, so I have no idea what you're asking me.
I only went 142, okay, which means you get the next 8 minutes as usual. Go ahead.
Let's keep moving. I assume you were asking about Stephen Wagner predicting the Georgia Tech loss, which he predicted before the season, and he won't stop talking about it like he's this amazing prophet guru. Because by a remarkable, first of all, if they had taken a knee, if they hadn't fumbled, if the other team hadn't gotten those ridiculous 2 plays at the end, if Stephen Wagner would never even mentioned his prediction about Georgia Tech, right? This is the funny thing about the media. Like, the media predicts weird stuff months earlier, and if one little thing comes true, they're like, I predicted that. I said that Miami was going to lose by 48 points to Temple, or whatever. Like, it's ridiculous. But I'm only ragging on Wagner because he and Zuby did such a good job yesterday that people want Gary and Matt fired from Good Morning CaneSport, to which I wholeheartedly agree. But okay, Gary, so I did listen to you, and we already talked about this. Yeah, it's more important now that they win because they lost the last game, and you got to show recruits that the program isn't caving in, that the culture to some extent is taking hold. It was a little confusing because, look, I mean, you hear bits and pieces out of the program from sources, not as much as in the good old days, but they did have a team meeting. However, from what I can gather, it wasn't like I expected it would be a players-only meeting at some point, but apparently it was just a team meeting with Mario sort of, it was almost like the old Seinfeld air your grievances thing, and just open forum for different players to say, whatever they were thinking and to sort of clear the air and move on, which is a smart thing to do from Mario's perspective. And, when he talked about the leadership council, I don't know why I picture like the Knights of the Round Table, where there's King Arthur's court and there's a big round table and they're all, in their armor, pounding their fists on the table, hear ye, hear ye. From
if
now
you need a leadership council too often, you got it problems.
I mean, there was no Knights of the Round Table leadership council stuff when Miami was winning national titles. So this is something I guess Mario learned from Alabama or Oregon, hopefully not at FIU. Look, the leadership council, whatever that means. I mean, I assume he just means like team leaders, right? Yeah. That group of players is going to have to really grab these players who maybe are still sulking. Because listen, it's human nature. There are still players on this team that are upset, period. If they say it or not, they're upset that Mario didn't take a knee. They're upset that Mario put them in that position at the end of the game where they were just heartbroken. It's what he did. It is what happened. They can love Mario to death. It's just like your family. You know, my parents would put me in there was no timeouts back then. They'd spank you and send you to your room. Like, was I happy about it? I didn't think I did anything wrong.
Your parents did not spank you.
I was a
I've
spank.
met your
You can't
parents.
tell. Listen, honestly,
I have met your parents. There's no chance you got spanked.
those were the old days, okay? And let me tell you something.
No way.
Look at this. You think this didn't deserve to be spanked? I guarantee you I deserve to be spanked, okay?
There's no way you got spanked.
I just wish my wife would spank me, you know? I mean, that's what I'm most upset about right now. But
now you're venturing into some interesting turf match.
You're the one who goes to Hooters for no apparent reason by yourself. But anyway, so what I was trying to say is, you know, as a human being, when you feel wronged by something outside your control, that's very hard to get over. You know, it's one thing if you made a mistake in the game. Okay, Don Chaney fumbled, probably should have been ruled down, but he fumbled. Corey Couch went for an interception, misjudged the ball, and it ended in a 30-yard gain that set up the winning touchdown. You know, Cam Kinchen's pushed up. Like, you can blame individual players. They blame themselves, believe me. And you can blame the whole team because the team never should have been in that position where those players were in that position. But those players blame themselves. But, you know, on top of that, they realize this never should have come down to that. And why shouldn't it have come down to that? It shouldn't have come down to that because of Mario. And you know, a lot of media are sort of really bruising Mario for it. I mean, they're calling it the worst call in the history of sports. You know, just craziness. It wasn't a good call. It was a terrible call. But like, Miami shouldn't have had happened what happened. Like, that should, even with the call, even with the fumble, even if it was called the wrong way, what happened next was unfathomable. You know, all anyone's talking about is the fumble. But I mean, how do you give up those two plays? Like, it's unfathomable. So this game, they have to show we've gotten over it, because if they come out in the first quarter and they're not ferocious and mad and like literally giving every ounce of energy they have, that's not a great sign for the culture that Mario is trying to instill and that he seems to have indicated to us earlier before last game was instilled. If what he's saying is true, this team will respond. This team will be competitive with North Carolina and should have a very good chance of beating North Carolina. I mean, I was looking at, you know, somebody posted on the message board the other day, you know, who has North Carolina beaten, right? And they've beaten South Carolina, which is 2-3, App State in overtime, which is 3-3, Minnesota's 3-3, Pitt's 1-4, and then Syracuse was 4-1, but they're not supposed to be very good. You know, they're supposed to be okay. And North Carolina did do a really good job in that game, but like, they haven't beaten, you know, a team you'd consider a really top team to this point. So I'd say there's some question left as to, is North Carolina that good? And then yesterday I also posted, not to bore everybody, but I posted some interesting numbers for Miami, even with that loss. You know, these are numbers we haven't seen at the midway point from Miami Hurricanes team in 20 years. You know, they're number 1 in the nation in rushing defense, number 5 in first downs defense, number 9 in total defense, number 12 in scoring defense. The other side of the ball, they are number 7 in total offense, number 8 in team passing efficiency, number 12 in time of possession, number 14 in third down conversion percentage. The defense also is number 18 in team passing efficiency defense. Every measurable statistic that you want to measure that's important, they're in the top 20 pretty much. You know, total defense, total offense, stopping other teams, you know, and getting first downs. The only things they're really bad at is penalties. They're 106th in the nation in penalties and 117th in penalty yards per game. I did post this also. They are number 1 in fumbles that should have been ruled down by contact. I made that up, but I included that in my statistics because I think it's true. I believe that statistic is true. And then individually, you got Tyler Van Dyke, number 6 nationally in passing efficiency, number 12 in completion percentage, number 19 in touchdown passes, number 27 in yards per completion. Corey Couch, number 8 in the nation in interceptions with 3. Gary says he should only have 2, but he has 3. Andy Borregales, number 15 in field goal percentage with just 1 miss. Xavier Restrepo's number 16 in receiving yards, and he's number 12 in receptions per game. Henry Powers is number 22 in rush yards per carry, almost 7 yards a carry. And Jacoby George is number 35 in receiving touchdowns. So there's individuals stepping up. The team is stepping up, but they lost the game. So now's your chance against North Carolina to show these numbers are real. These numbers aren't in the ether, which is not actually the Ethernet, Gary. It is the ether, the air up there. And we're going to find out very, very quickly on Saturday if this team's responding or not. And I'm actually somewhat excited. I wasn't excited for the Georgia Tech game. Maybe I should have been, since it turned out to be such an exciting game for Yellow Jackets fans. But I am excited for this game. I will be excited for the Clemson game. I will be excited for for pretty much all the rest of the games except for Virginia. I think I'll have some level of excitement for. And even BC, it'll be nice to see Blake James watching Miami beat his team very, very easily, in my opinion. So, Virginia, not excited for. Other than that, I'm pretty excited for every other game, I think.
All right. Well, you just talked for 9 minutes and you still didn't answer my question.
I did.
Is this game bigger now that the Canes are coming off that loss the other night than it would have been if they were 5-0 going into Chapel Hill?
I mean, we talked about it for 20 minutes on Monday, but yes, obviously, I'm not going to rehash the whole freaking diatribe that I had.
I asked you, is it a bigger game for Miami now, having lost the game, than if they were undefeated?
Can you eat small barracuda? Yes. Yes, it's a bigger game. Obviously. I mean, if they were undefeated, you lose one game, fans aren't that upset. They're like, okay, we lost at a really, really good team. We're still on the right track. You lose 2 in a row, the way that they lost the last game, you don't respond, you lose another game. And now, things are starting to come undone in the perception of fans. And perception becomes reality for recruiting and impact on recruiting. And that's the negativity. You can't keep having negativity when Mario Cristobal is in his second year. You got to start seeing that upward trend towards next year and just show progress. And, starting 4-0 and ranked in the top 20 or whatever, and then all of a sudden losing 2 games, that's not going to appear like progress to anybody. So, yeah, they have to win.
All right. So, obviously, a big key to winning is going to be scoring points. And we've been doing our usual pregame studies, and Matt goes in the lab, as you know. And this morning, we bring you an analysis of the North Carolina defense, which has struggled at times, but then out of nowhere, they shut out Syracuse last weekend. So, Matt, tell us now, what is the real North Carolina defense, and how does Miami match up against it?
So, full disclosure, I've been working on this North Carolina defense story for 2 weeks, okay? So I had already, before even the Georgia Tech game, because look, I mean, you people don't know how much work goes into this, but Mario Cristobal is the only person that works harder than Matt Shodell, okay? I only work like 20 hours less than Mario Cristobal a week, all right, which is a lot of hours. And I literally had the story pretty much done. I was going to just grab some more clips after watching the North Carolina, the North Carolina, they have a condensed game. After I watched the condensed game for an hour, I was going to, grab some clips out of that and just sort of add to the previous story. And until the Syracuse game, the North Carolina defense really wasn't good. I know they're ranked fairly decently. They're top 40, top 50 in most of the defensive categories that matter. Whereas last year they were 105th in scoring defense, 112th or 117th in total defense. Definitely in the hundreds of both of those. They were awful on defense last year, which is why they were bad last year. Certainly this is a much better defense than last year. Personnel-wise, they're understanding the scheme. They're playing much better. But they still weren't good until Syracuse. And so I rewrote the story this week a little bit to sort of reflect that they weren't good until Syracuse. And here's what they did to Syracuse. Here's what Syracuse had been before the game. Syracuse was a really good offense heading into the North Carolina game. They were. They had a good passing offense. They were a good offense in general, ranked in the top. I think I put the numbers in the story for what they were ranked before laying an egg against North Carolina. And they were, maybe top 20 in total offense, something like that. But they only had 7 points and 226 yards off the top of my head against this vaunted now North Carolina defense. Now, I actually like that because if you're a defensive coordinator, offense coordinator, when you were looking at tape and you see a team that's having some success, they're going to keep doing the same things. So what you see on tape that North Carolina did on defense to Syracuse's offense, North Carolina is going to think, okay, we've got this figured out. This is how you play defense. Now, look, it's a different offense for Miami. It's different personnel for Miami, but the basic concepts of that defense are not going to change a heck of a lot. They're going to do very similar things, and they're going to say, we think we've figured this out. We're getting better and better on defense. Why would we change anything? And it's the same thing on offense. If your offense is cruising along, you're not going to make any wholesale changes. You're going to change some plays here and there, maybe give a look that looks similar to a play you've run before, but run a different option out of it, things like that, of course. But you're not going to make wholesale changes. And part of the reason Georgia Tech beat Miami last week is the opposite of that, because Georgia Tech had been doing so poorly on defense that they changed a lot of their coverage schemes because they had a new defense coordinator, and Miami studied I think it was at Auburn a few years earlier or something like that as their coordinator. Miami had studied that, but there really was no reference point for them to understand exactly what he was going to run. And you would think in a week span, they wouldn't be able to run a lot different than what they had done. But they, Miami, Tyler Van Dyke and Shannon Dawson both said that they changed up their coverages. And obviously it took Tyler the entire game plus to figure out what they were doing. He never figured it out. So with that said, I actually like the matchup of Miami's offense against the North Carolina defense because I don't think North Carolina's defense is as good as they think it is. And I think Miami's going to put up a lot of points against it. I also thought Miami was going to score 42-plus points against Georgia Tech, which, like I said before, they did. Miami did score that many points, just a lot of the points wound up being Georgia Tech points instead of Miami points because of the four turnovers, right? One turned into a touchdown, one turned into a field goal, another one turned into a touchdown. It was just a parade of errors in the last game. It's like visiting Gary Ferman's basement. It's just a horror show. It was a horror show. I would rather be in Gary Ferman's basement than watch that Georgia Tech game again, and that's not even a joke. And you don't even have a basement. I'd have to dig the basement and lie in the dirt.
The basement, yes.
I'd have to lie in the dirt. I'd rather do that. I'd rather dig a basement in Ferman's home and lie in the dirty, musty dungeon being ferminated than have to watch that Georgia Tech game again. That was just awful.
So you feel pretty good about Miami's offense and how it'll match up against North Carolina.
But again,
State?
I did last week too. Georgia Tech's defense is horrendous. So who am I to say? I'm just some schmuck. I looked at the film. Based on the film, Miami should have scored a ton of points against Georgia Tech. They did change their coverages. Tyler Van Dyke didn't do real well against it, and that screwed up Matt Shodell's prediction. My prediction this week is North Carolina doesn't change a heck of a lot, and Miami lights them up. I think it's going to be a high-scoring 38-34, 41-38. I'm sure Stephen Wagner predicts Miami to lose the rest of their games, but I'm predicting that I actually think Miami has a chance to win. Now, if I had to, I'm a truth teller. Like, I don't think Miami will win, but I would put them at about a 45% chance of winning. Like, I think they'll be right there. On the road against a team that has an NFL quarterback, really good receivers, really good, I think a really good two-headed running back tandem. Their weakness on offense is their offensive line. So if Miami, without Akeem Messidor, like, I don't know that Miami's going to have the success it needs to have against Drake May because they got to hit him. Like Branson Dean said, I think we have that up this morning. He said, we got to hit Drake May. I mean, that's for sure. Like, they have got to hit him, contain him, make him uncomfortable somehow, some way, or else they're going to score. North Carolina's going to score a ridiculous amount of points. That's a must. And then on the other side of the ball, they just have to outscore them. They have to get enough stops on defense just to let Miami's offense, control the ball a little bit, have some time in possession edge, move the ball, keep the chains going, and get points on the board. Like, that's how you win this kind of a game. But I do think that both teams are going to score over 30 points.
It's been interesting this week, watching the fan base progressively kind of get over what happened. Like, I think people will never stop being upset about losing that game. But the Canes fan is resilient. The Canes fan has been through a lot. And, it wasn't our first rodeo. We've been through, tough moments, through the years. In 1984, they blew a 31-0 lead to Maryland. And then 2 weeks later had the Hale Flutie situation to deal with. In 2007, last game in the Orange Bowl, one of the most horrible nights in Hurricane history, got blown out at Virginia. Since moving to Hard Rock Stadium, lost 58-0 to Clemson in Al Golden's last game in 2015, had the upset of FIU in 2019 that everybody had to bounce back from. And then last year you had the embarrassment of losing to Middle Tennessee. So, everyone will bounce back, and this will be a big moment on Saturday. And whether you're going to North Carolina and seeing the game in person or you're watching on TV, I think we can all agree that it's time to move on, rally the troops, find a way to win Saturday night at North Carolina. And
what's your rallying speed? You're Mario Cristobal in the locker room, that body switch where in the movies where your mind, as tiny as it is, goes into Mario Cristobal's brain. What's your pregame speech? What do you say to that team when they're in the locker room before you go out in the field? What are you telling them?
I don't mention last week. I'll tell you that. I mean, that's got to be in the rearview mirror. I think that you make sure that you've prepared them as well as they could be prepared. I feel pretty good about the fact that that will happen, and I think you tell them to go out and play every down like they've been trained to do, and except if we're winning at the end, we're going to kneel down. That's all. I mean,
That's what I would say. That's
you
exactly
go on
what
the
I would say.
road. It's going to be a night game.
You froze up. You were so excited.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
I would say.
We're
I
going to
want
play
you guys
every
to play-
down to the last one. And this goddamn time we're kneeling down.
Exactly. That's what I say. I want you guys to play so well that I can kneel the ball at the end. That's exactly what I would say. And then the team would get up and be screaming and moving up and down.
Yeah.
I mean, I would start a chant,
and then if they
kneel down, kneel down, kneel down. I start a whole chant and everything. It'd be great.
Listen, can you imagine what that sideline will be like if they can get to the point Saturday night at about 11 o'clock or so, that they're at the last play of the game, they have the ball and they are taking a knee? Can you imagine what that will be like on the Miami sideline?
That's what I'm saying. I would be so excited. I want them to be able to take a knee.
That will be
100%.
That will be an incredible moment. I'm praying that we get to see it on Saturday at North Carolina. So that's part of our continuing coverage, getting you guys ready for the game.
The media's going to ask him afterwards what it felt like to take a knee. That's going to happen too. That's going to be funny.
Oh, there's no
it's going to be crazy. Yeah, it's going to become a comedy show.
I'll volunteer, man. I would love to ask that question. How did it feel
to finally take a knee?
Even Mario would have to laugh at that.
Do not ask that question. It's not funny. Don't ask
Mario would have to laugh.
No, do not ask that question.
You don't think Mario would laugh?
No, that's like asking an overweight person if they're pregnant. Like, you just don't do that. Don't do that.
All right. I'll let Susan ask the question. How about that? All right. So let's see. So we got a couple other stories like I said, our continuing effort to get you guys ready for the game. We got a story with Corey Couch on the website today. We also have a story with Branson Dean, who I thought looked pretty good when he came back last week against Georgia Tech. And they're obviously looking towards North Carolina. All right. I've got some recruiting stories to tell you about that are on the website today as well. But first, I need to talk about our sponsor today, which is CaneSwear. And man, I don't know if you guys went by CaneSwear last weekend before the Georgia Tech game, but that place was jumping. All right. CaneSwear has emerged as your go-to spot for Miami Hurricanes merchandise. No matter what you want, no matter what you need, you head on over to CaneSwear. If you're in town, you go to their store, 2655 University Drive in Davie. If you're not, you go on their website. But I'll tell you, you would have thought it was Christmas at CaneSwear this past weekend as people got ready for the Georgia Tech game. Sunday, not so busy, let's be honest. But anyway, so football season's here, and obviously CaneSwear has opened up what we've been telling you about all year, a much larger store, same shopping plaza, but a bigger store down the way. And they have the largest selection of Hurricanes merchandise that has ever been created. They have t-shirts, jerseys, polos, hoodies, hats, flags, decals, magnets. They have every size you could possibly want for men, women, kids, babies. They will even outfit your pet. Your pet dog will get dressed at CaneSwear. If you want to go tailgating for next week's home game against Clemson, for example, you can get tents, tables, chairs at CaneSwear. They even have gear for the Dolphins, the Panthers, Inter Miami Soccer. This is a great time for you to go by CaneSwear and get stocked up for every season. It's a hot time in South Florida sports. The Heat are cranking up, the Panthers. Just every team is going to be playing, and you can have outfits for every single one of them if you just take the time to go by CaneSwear, where it's more than just a store. It is an experience. And they're at 2655 South University Drive in Davie, right next to, I'm just going to say the name because it's a great sub shop, La Spada, where they make these monster subs that you will absolutely like as well. So you can feed yourself and outfit yourself just by going to CaneSwear. And like I said, they are always open at caneswear.com. So visit the store, 2655 South University Drive in Davie, or go to caneswear.com for all your Miami Hurricanes merchandise needs. All right. And for all your Miami Hurricanes recruiting needs, you can go to CaneSport.com because we got more recruiting coverage for you this morning. We've got our weekly Tracking the Commits column with stats, highlights of the Miami commits. You can see how they're all doing in their high school seasons. We also did something special this week. We have scouts at On3 that watch all these kids very, very intensively because they have to rank them and put them in pecking order. So we've been doing scouts takes stories on some of these Miami commits. We've got one on quarterback Judd Anderson and one on defensive end Marquise Lightfoot today. And you can get some knowledgeable insight on what their upside is as they prepare to become Miami Hurricanes. We also catch up with Vero Beach 2026 athlete Ephraim White. He's the number 35 overall prospect in the 2026 On3 industry rankings. He was at the game against Georgia Tech, and he says that it was a positive experience regardless of the outcome. You could catch up on that and more in that story on the website. We also break down 5 commitments that are standing out the most halfway through the season, so don't miss that either. So that's going to do it, I think, for Good Morning CaneSport for today. I'm headed to North Carolina, so we'll probably let maybe we'll let the young guys do the show again tomorrow. We'll see. Maybe we'll have Matt join and we'll figure it out. But I'll be flying to North Carolina. So I will not be here tomorrow morning, but I will be in Chapel Hill this weekend. If you are going to the game, make sure you say hello. I want to meet. I love meeting you guys on the road. If you are watching this show,
He's lying. You can always tell Gary's lying.
I love all the fans. They're great. The ones that go on the road are the most.
You can tell Gary's lying because his mouth is moving. That's how you can tell if Gary's lying.
No, man, the ones that go on the road, they're the most passionate fans out there. They're great.
I'm teasing.
I know you are. That's why I'm not giving you too hard of a time. So if you're watching this show on YouTube and you like it, hit your subscribe and like buttons. It helps us with the algorithms, grow our audience. If you are not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, please, we need you on board. Your subscriptions help us do and allow us to do what we do every single day to try to enhance your experience as a fan. So come on over, join CaneSport.com. You can get your first month for $1 right now. That's our intro special for new subscribers. And we don't think you'll be sorry. We think you'll hopefully want to stay with us for the long term. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody, and we will see you next time.